And we are live. How to set boundaries that actually increase your revenue. Look, you don't need to be more rigid. You actually just need to be more clear. A lot of business owners think they're being clear when they focus on some things in their client agreements, particularly payment, delivery, and milestone. But today we're going to show you how to take that even further in ways that protect your sanity, but also increase your revenue. My name is Acacia Thornton. I'm the CEO, legal coach, longtime attorney, and business advisor turned coach and energetic superstar. And I'm really here to help my clients elevate their space from within and without when it comes to their client relationships, their revenue, and their business elevation. And this is the Aligned Business series where we go live 3 times a week telling you real client stories. These are real world stories that have happened and what we did to solve them. And today's is about that, setting the boundaries that actually increase your revenue. Because why don't most boundaries work? What is it that's happening when you think you've got that milestone listed, those payment plans listed, and even the deliverables? Why do somehow things tend to go beyond that? Because there's a lot of assumptions is one of them, right? We don't write down, here's the boundary and what happens after it. Or we don't agree to them. You assume your clients understand certain things, that this is how a business like this is run. And one of the stories that we did on Tuesday, we're not doing it today, but we did it on Tuesday, is the client assumed when they said, hey, we need handholding, that really meant every little piece of thing ever, where my client was like, that's just not reasonable to give, especially for extra months of time, right? So we don't always really have the clarity and communication that we think we do up front with our clients. Then there's also the idea of you wait until they're at the line or that you've crossed the line. And then we look to enforce, well, hey, here was the boundary, here was this. And that ad hoc, that post hoc situation, it actually creates an interesting tension. Because while it's not a conflict, it does create this, well, you've hit the wall. And nobody likes, and your client, right? Nobody wants to feel like, well, okay, here's the wall. I hit it. Now what? I didn't realize the wall was coming. So that after the fact also has a big impact. And of course, customer service matters, right? You want to be nice. You want to be accessible. You want to get things over the finish line. If you promise certain deliverables at a certain standard, you want to make sure they get done. Your clients paid for certain things to get done. Let's say it's a website and you've gone through all the work and meetings to get there, but yet there's not enough info back from the client. And that's one story we're going to hear today. What do? Right? You just say, well, that's it. You're out of calls. You don't get anymore, even though your website's not done. Right? So how do you actually deliver what you've promised to deliver within the bounds of what you've promised to deliver it in? So these are all really important. And unlike a lot of you guys are in for a treat today. Unlike a lot of our Aligned Business series calls, I'm going to give you 2 client stories today, right? 2. And the first, she's an interior designer, interior decorator, and she does a lot of stuff on site. So she's constantly driving across town, going to meet those clients in person, seeing the space, checking out what the contractors are doing and making sure everything is done right. Well, one Thursday, she drives across town and she gets ghosted. The client doesn't show. And she was messaging the client, where are you? You come in, and 20 minutes later, they're like, hey, we're not going to make it. Can we push it back a couple hours? This also for her and this particular client, it wasn't the first time they had done this. But even if it was, this no-show and last minute delay, it has a cost to her time. Right? She's not working on other projects. She's not helping other clients. She's not showing up for her other parts of her business. But there's also the idea of the gas and the wear and tear and all of these other things. And now, 2 hours from now, she probably already has something scheduled in her day. And yet she still owes this client a meeting about this situation. So she's got to, in a sense, redo the work while also negatively affecting whatever would be happening in 2 hours. And even if she chose like, hey, can't do it today, we got to do it tomorrow or 2 days later, it's the same thing. It's time that was designated for now that is not being honored and respected. but also the effort that it took to be prepared and be there for that time she was delivering to this client, right? And the problem here was not just that the client was, a no-show or not great at communication and time management, which happens. A lot of people don't have the same forms of communication and time management expectations that others do. And this is one of those things that's often left unsaid in your client agreements, right? Even a milestone, even a deadline, even a payment wouldn't have addressed this miscommunication or this limbo space. So there was no clause in her client agreements that said her time has a value and that there's no billing for late considerations or last minute calls. It just lets the client continue to do this. So at what point does she step up and say, all right, it's the third time you've done this. I'm not doing this anymore. Right? Then how that feels to the client? Because there was a give, 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 and now the client just hits a wall. How and when we communicate, and we learn this in negotiations, being a longtime attorney, there's different negotiation styles that have a different emotional impact on the other side. And so if we care about the quality and how our clients feel, we actually want to communicate and clarify things so upfront. And not just in a, hey, I told them, but in the agreement itself. Let the client actually agree to treat the relationship this way. Because now when they overstep it, there can be an outcome. And that's the part we're going to get to, because that outcome can be revenue. And it's not punitive revenue. It's actually revenue that elevates both you and the client at the same time. But before we do that, I want to tell you another client story. This is somebody who's a coach. She's a business coach. She also does logo and website design as an added package or offering for her clients. And so this was what one of her customers had ordered. We're going to do 3 months of coaching and to start her business. And part of that, she was also going to deliver a great logo and a customized website. And so every one of those coaching calls, my client shows up prepared, ready. Here's, the mock-ups. Here's this, here's that. And they kept moving forward, or so she thought. The client would show up to the calls. It wasn't the no-show. It was on time, unlike the interior designer. But this client would, I didn't get done with my part. Or, I didn't get the chance to look through that. Or, I need more time. I haven't decided, right? Indecision. Some people are just very indecisive. How do we get them to be on time, to keep their project on track? Well, this kept happening and kept happening. And so eventually the 3 months of coaching calls were up. And yet the delivery of the logo and the website was not done because the customer had not decided all the things that needed to be done. Maybe they didn't decide, well, this is the exact business model or the messaging I want to have, things that matter for a website. So my client added a few more calls. All right, we'll go through a few more calls. Okay, we'll go through a few more calls. And this added 9 months more. 9 months more of calls trying to get her client over the hump, to get them to the finish line of delivering what she had promised, but also what she believed her client paid for. Her client paid for a logo, a website, and coaching. So my client is over giving 9 months more. It took a year. And guess what? She never got her customer over that finish line. So she eventually had to say, I'm done. I need to terminate this agreement, this relationship. This is not working out. I've given you 9 months of extra calls and you, customer, can't get it together for whatever reason. And she ended up having to refund 80% of the money back. She gave 9 months of extra work and yet still had to refund 80%. Why? Because her contract said what she had to deliver: the website, the logo, the coaching calls. And the pricing was attached to whether or not those got delivered, not everything else. And it also, and here's the important part, it never said what the client has to deliver. When we set up our contracts with our clients, so many times we sit there and are like, well, you owe me payment. They owe you more than that. They owe you showing up on time. They owe you making sure that the deadlines are met, or that if they're not, you're not the one carrying the weight of that, right? If they don't meet the deadline, you now can't meet your deadlines. or you can't get the deliverables done that you promised. And it's not your fault. You've shown up. You've done your part. You've brought your heart, your soul, and your time and energy to this space. The customer didn't. And so why are we on the hook for this? Because we have that vacancy in our contracts. And I'm going to show you here in a second how to actually get the wording. You can just copy paste this wording right into your contracts. But there's two big clauses here that are going to be really helpful. The first is an acceptance clause. An acceptance clause is something that is not going to be in your template. So if you got a generic template online or you had AI write your template, you're not going to have an acceptance clause in there. And that is because it has to be customized for you and your business. So AI can't truly customize things. It can only see what everybody else already has and regenerate it. Or it hallucinates. But an acceptance clause, what it is it's a sentence that says, this is when it's officially done. And not just the end of the project. Every single step. This is when step one is done and payment is due and we move forward. It tells the customer you have to respond. You have to react this way. Even if you ghost me, you can't get away with it. There is still an outcome. So acceptance clauses are really important for that reason, because it's not just deliver and let the client, right? You're going to chase them. What if they don't respond? What if they come back with 55 requests and revisions? You said 2 are included. So the acceptance clause clarifies when delivery is done. It's not when they think it's done. It's when the contract says it is. So the acceptance clause is very, very important, because when it's triggered, right, when delivery is done, payment immediately becomes due, or the next step immediately starts. There is no limbo. There is no waiting. It immediately triggers the next step, which means your payments are going to happen faster and on time. You're not waiting on the client. It also means you're going to get the projects done on time. No more lingering and letting them drag out 9 months, adding things on, clients not showing up for your meetings. No more of that. It says this was done. The acceptance clause elements have been met. We go to the next phase. Plain and simple. You don't get to come back, customer, and now reopen phase one. Phase one is done. And that's really, really powerful, because as business owners, it's not just services we're giving. We have a business to run. That's timelines, that's costs, that's overhead, that's expenses, that's revenue. And every bit of your time, effort, and energy is part of that and needs that value exchange. So that's the first part, is the acceptance clause. The second one is the scope creep clause. This one is really, really, really powerful. I have some clients who put like 7 of them in there. Because what it says is, client, here's the boundary, and here's what happens if you exceed it. That's where a lot of business owners think they have something in the contract. Oh, 2 revisions are included. Okay, well, what happens if the third one is needed? Right? Maybe a third one really is needed, and that's the appropriate thing to do. But then what happens? Because while it's nice to think that everything will be done within 2, the truth is some actually need more than that. So what's the value exchange for that? The customer just keeps getting it until it's done and it's perfect? That's a misalignment of energy. That burden's on you. What about their part in this? It also is great because it tells the client where the boundary is. Hey, client, I need you to communicate everything to me in those 2 rounds of revisions. Not, oh, here's another one. Oh, I came up with this too. Oh, what about this? Right? Slowly moves the line. Hey, saying, hey, this is your last revision that's included. Let's make sure everything you need and you want is met in this, because otherwise, here's what happens. More time is needed. There's an added cost. And it's not just revisions and services. What if they need one more sample? This many samples. Or, hey, you've missed the deadline. I've already started production on your thing. Now, because this deadline is crossed, this is the outcome. We're going to need an extra 40 days to do this, and the price is going to go up 10%. So it's not a punishment. It's saying what the value outcome is. But most importantly, it sets your client up for success, because now your client knows what's expected of them. They also know if they miss these deadlines, well, hey, it's going to cost the project more, but also extend the timeline. It's no longer a 2-month project. Now I have to wait an extra 40 days for my deliverable. Do I want that? It gives them empowerment. These types of communications and clauses give the client empowerment. And because they're there from the beginning, everyone's agreed to it. That's the best part. It's been agreed to, and they empower both sides because if you have to go do that third revision or you have to go cancel that production element, that you're okay. It's not exhausting. It's not stressful because the time and costs are going to be accounted for already. Where if you had just said payment for deliverables and milestones and deadlines, none of that would have been communicated. So this is important because they not only affect your revenue and what you're giving, but they say, client, you crossed the line, this boundary gets crossed, whatever it is, there's a cost, which means you get paid more. So, okay, you need to give 2 extra rounds of revisions. Cool, but you're going to get paid for it. That is really important, and why a scope creep and acceptance clause are so, so important to your revenue, but also having beautiful, better client communication and boundaries. That energetic space between you is better communicated. So I want to tell you all how you can I've created a free guide. It's absolutely free guide. And it just kind of walks you through 7 signs that you might be overgiving in your business, right? Are you overgiving? Where are these different areas where you have the opportunity to add a sentence or 2 that create better communication, better boundaries, and increase their revenue when they go across it? So like, for example, the stories we gave earlier, that interior designer, she could say, hey, the first time you cancel, not a problem. But anytime that there's a cancellation in 2 hours or less of the meeting time, there's an added cost of this. And rescheduling will take up an added billable hour, right? There's an outcome for it. So I promise you that client is not going to sit there and keep saying, oh, let's just push these back, because they know they have agreed to in that agreement that if they don't behave and treat your time a certain way, there is going to be a consequence, an outcome that affects them. And now they can choose, because sometimes maybe something really big happened and they really needed to push that call back. And you're like, you know what? I don't care if it costs me $100 extra. This call needs to go back. Well, now they got to make a better value decision on their side. And they'll come along and be like, look, this is what happened. It was a really big deal. And then you decide if you enforce the $100 charge or not. That's up to you. But without that clause there, you don't get a choice. That interior designer that I told you about, when she first came to me, she didn't have a choice. She's just sitting there twiddling her thumbs on a Thursday afternoon and be like, great, my time is wasted to go back across town now to the other client. Should have just stayed on that side of town, and so on. And then with our coach who overgave 9 months of added calls, the acceptance clause would have said, this is when things are done. And dear client, if you need extra calls, this is what that price is. So then her customer would have known, I need to get this stuff done in these 3 months, because if I don't, I am responsible for more costs. These boundaries help our clients behave better, but also make better decisions while increasing your revenue and solving your stress problems. Because you know that if the customer hits these boundaries, you have a place to go. You have a sanity boundary that's already been communicated and agreed to. All right, so there's the QR code and the address for the 7 signs you're overgiving free guide. It's a PDF. And in that, it'll also show you how to get a scope creep clause and acceptance clause. You can just copy paste right into your agreements. But now it's time for our live Q&A. All right, let me go to the chat. I saw it moving a little bit. Let's see, what do we have? What's the best way to introduce a new boundary to an existing client? Okay, right. It is always better and easier when we've communicated things right up front, especially if they were in that written agreement. But what you can say to a new client, whenever I like to help my clients communicate to their clients, it's give the value exchange. Show how this boundary is going to help the client. Hey, client, I've noticed that we've been missing a lot of calls. It's really important to me that you get the value of what you've paid for in a timeline where it's going to be effective for you. And if we keep pushing these out like that, you're just not really going to get the results you wanted in the timeline. So I think it's best if we start putting a boundary that says that we've got to set up these next 4 calls within this month, and that if we're late or whatever, that we might just start, like whatever the outcome is. But I like to communicate the impact on the customer first, how having this boundary supports them, because then they're more open and receptive to it. Where if you're like, hey, that's it, you only get 4 calls, and if it's not done this month, like I'm not doing anymore. That doesn't sound great. So it's not what we're communicating, it's always how we're doing it, and letting your customers know, I'm still there for you. I still got you. I'm not leaving you. I'm not abandoning you. I want you to get the worthy value you've paid for. Let's make that happen. So that's always really helpful. So whenever you're adding to existing clients, that's usually how I recommend it be communicated. Yeah. Do you include pricing for additional time inside the contract or invoice separately? Do you include pricing for additional time inside the contract or invoice? Oh, okay. So this is up to you. You can simply say, hey, added calls will be at the billable rate at the time. Or you can say any added calls will be at the billable rate of $250 an hour, right? You can go ahead and just say it right in there. Kind of leave it up to you. The more clear you can be in the contracts, the better for the client. But at the same time, you don't want to have to re-customize every single contract every single time and all these different lines. So find the balance is what I would recommend. What if you already go off of an hourly rate, be like, oh, the client is expected to have 10 hours included at the rate of $250 an hour. And then later you could say any additional time will be billed at the hourly rate, right? You've already said the hourly rate in the contract, but you don't have to say it twice. So that's up to you. It's a business decision, it's a communication decision, but the more clear you can be up front, the more you can point to your clients, we agreed to this. We were all on the same page. Here it is. I'm not moving that boundary. I'm not changing the boundaries. I'm not changing the finish line here. It's here for you. So yeah. And I see some of you are getting that guide. Yeah, go ahead and just QR code it or go to that website. It's a free PDF download. Yeah, it's great. It's actually really good. I put a lot of time into that. Do I need to revise? Do I need to revise old contracts or just start with new ones? Your template. Whatever your template is where you want to start. That's what you want to have this baseline put in there. That's where you want to add the scope creep. That's where you want to add the acceptance clause. So that way, every contract moving forward has that, right? If it's an old contract that's already signed or already been done, we're not allowed to legally go change them unless we get the client to sign an amendment, which sometimes isn't always worth the effort. So I leave that up to you on how you want to handle the older ones. Usually if it's ongoing and there's an issue, kind of the example I said earlier, communicate to the client, this is the value in setting this boundary, why I'm setting that boundary and why we're going to go with this. But otherwise, just put it right in your templates. That way it's a no-brainer. You don't have to think about it anymore, right? We don't need to make this hard. This could be that simple. Just put them in there and let them live until one day you decide, I want to add a new one or I want to change and update this one. And then you only have to do it once. Yeah. Can I still reschedule if I want to, or does the clause lock me in? The clause is your choice to enforce it. It's your choice to enforce. So it's there. You choose to enforce it, whether or not. And you can enforce it, like maybe the first one, you're like, hey, I'm going to let this one slide, not a problem, but I just want to let you know, dear client, that according to our agreement, if we go beyond this, there might be additional billables here. So I just want to give you that heads up next time. But if you want to get ahead of it, I keep using the 2 revisions because I feel like so many of my clients have that. But when they come to that second revision, the one that's included already, be like, okay, client, just a friendly reminder, this is the last one that's included. So the sooner we can communicate, the better. But you're not required to charge them. That's always a choice. But there can be some negative windfall on the client side if you just keep being like, not a problem, not a problem, not a problem. Okay, today, no. It has that, oh, wait, what? back to the wall. It can hurt the client emotionally when we do that. So we want to be communicating up front, but it is your choice whether or not to enforce it. You can always be like, I'll let it go this time, not a problem. But without it, you don't have a choice at all. You're just stuck with whatever the client wants to do or behave, and that is that. All right, guys, we're at time. We are over. I always try to keep these under 20 minutes. Go ahead. You can always email me. I am at ceolegalcoach.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Keisha Thornton. I'm also on the social medias at CEO Legal Coach, and I will see you all there. We go live tomorrow with another great topic, more client stories that you have not heard.